Resilience, focus, discipline, courage. Some of the key ingredients in manifesting your vision into a reality. Join me as we delve into what it takes to make your mark.
Hello, everyone. We are back for another episode of the Make Your Mark Talk Show. Thanks for coming again. Remember to follow us on Instagram at makeyourmark.ca and log on weekly for updates at www.makeyourmark.ca. My name is Vanessa, and I am your host for this episode. We are here with Jalisa Luces-Mendes. Oh my God, I said it so good.
You did.
Woo, that just rolled off the tongue. Okay. Founder of Toni Marlow, and that's an undergarments company apparel line for those who defy gender norms, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Jalisa, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, no problem. That's what we do. Just create that platform. But let us get to know you a bit more.
Yeah.
How did you kind of come up, the key moments of your growing up and how you've landed into the place where you are today?
That's a big question.
Very big, yeah.
How key moments in growing up landed me where I am today.
If you can even think back, because it does take time to think back to, the most important aspects of your growing up, but I like that kind of reflection. So
okay.
If you can try.
Sure. I'll try to summarize it. I don't know. Growing up, all my family is entrepreneurial in different ways. So, on my mom's side, they all are on their real estate hustle. Like all my grandparents came here. They're all immigrants. So we all know immigrant families. You have to hustle. Right. And so they were very resourceful, and I've always just seen them find solutions and be resourceful, which ended up with more coin. So yes. So, that's something that I must have taken in subconsciously. I am a Leo, so yeah.
Girl, yes!
You too? Yes. Okay. They always want to hate on us. And I'm like, you know why? It's not just about our hair and our looks. Okay?
We counterbalance it with the amount of love that we have for ourselves.
So generous.
So thank you very much.
All right. At least you feel me. You get it. But we are bossy.
Yeah.
Can't hide it.
Yeah.
So, my mom always did say you can't work for nobody. Like how is this gonna work? And being who I was like, no, don't say that. And then I got to the real world and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, she was right.
gotta do my own thing. But I also seen like my grandmother was very entrepreneurial as well. She was one of the first, if not the first in Toronto to make those, the little pone slices in the West Indian stores. Yeah, she was one of the first people to do that. So, just those kinds of stories. And my dad as well would do like different, businesses and multi-level marketing. So it was just something that was always in me. It was like, you always get a good job, but you always have to have another hustle as well. And so I'm just, following that. I hope that starts to answer your question.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then, in terms of how I ended up with this business in particular, I wasn't really good at math. I went to school and I didn't want to do the extra math to get into business school. So I was like, all right, just find a shortcut. There are no shortcuts.
Nope.
I did another program where I could do a minor in entrepreneurship. And in my first semester, I was like, oh, I don't really like this program at all. So I had to do 2 more maths. So I went back to high school while I was still in university doing math in night school and then in summer school. And then that's how I got in to transfer for year 2.
That's some work.
It was not fun.
That takes work and dedication.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have said, okay, maybe I'll have to try and find another shortcut.
Yeah.
And then in that, they find another shortcut and another shortcut, which gets them not where they want to be.
Exactly.
So how was that, having to do all of that schooling at the same time?
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
It was stressful, like I was in university, I was taking, I think, 4 courses in the day, and then night school at night, so that was twice a week, and then working part-time. So, it was busy, but I was still young and had energy. So, I made it work, but baby face. But, I knew I could not be in that program. Like, I hated the program. So it was like that or wait longer. And at that time, I was very focused on, well, everyone else graduates at this time, and I'm already going to be behind because I started a semester late or whatever the case was. And so I guess that helped really drive me to just get it done. Yeah, and then in my last year in business school at Ryerson, you do a capstone where you have, if you're going to get an entrepreneurship major, you have to start your own business or be on a team from that class that starts the business. And so, I pitched my idea and I was able to get a team going, and so that's how I launched my first business. And then when I was done school, I realized someone else had gotten a little further with the total vision that I originally had. And I just didn't have the resources or the passion anymore to really pursue it. And I had a lot of other ideas. So I just scrolled through my phone on all my ideas and picked the one that made the most sense. And that was Toni Marlow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So what I find interesting is that because now a lot of people, they do want to do their own thing and they want to, you know, they want to branch out and make their mark, but they see other people at the level that they want to be at.
Yeah.
So they see that and they use that as something that sets them back. Someone else's success setting them back because they feel like, but I'm not there yet. Yeah. Have you ever felt that way?
Every day.
Yeah.
No joke, every day. At least one time a day I see something and I'm like, so and so, like, why are they so far? Or like, what did they do that I'm not doing? Because I feel like I'm damn not trying to swear on Kim's show. But you know, like I feel like I'm doing everything I can do. Like, why am I not there yet? You know, so of course I definitely feel that every day. But I also have really great people and mentors around me that really help me to stay grounded. You know, I watch and listen to a lot of positive things and just like reflect in that way and always remind myself like, okay, you feel upset now, but this minute or 10 will pass, and then it's like just refocus, right? Because I'm sure this person felt the same way, but they kept going, right? And you know, that's the cliche phrase that you hear a lot now is like, don't compare your chapter 2 or your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 60. Like, you just can't.
Honestly, and that quote is just life-changing for a lot of people. You said mentors were a very big part of your success.
For sure.
How was that experience, and who mentored you? And you know, if you do have mentors, how did you try and seek them?
Yeah, so I have a lot of mentors. Some are very informal, just like I've always clicked with older people. So, and I'm just inquisitive. So some just happen naturally that way, and just, you know, they see that I'm, you know, motivated, and I'll listen, I'll take in the information. So I just ask questions, and, you know, and then others, you know, my one mentor actually I just met up with last night. I met him through Ryerson, through their Try Mentoring program. So when you're a student, if you're in like a second or third year or fourth year, you mentor someone who's first year, and then you get someone who's a graduate and in your field, so they can help you start like networking and figuring out what you need to do for your career.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's an amazing program. And so that's how I met one of my main mentors. Yeah.
And what's, I guess, is the most important thing that they've taught you that you continue to use?
Okay. That's too hard of a question. I can't nail it to one most important thing that any mentor has done or taught me. I think it really depends on in which area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what I do too. I have mentors for different parts.
Different things.
So like the business side or the art side or the parenting side, you can't get all the information from one person.
No.
You have to really be inclusive of who you bring into your circle, but also be intentional with who you bring in, right? Because a lot of people can bring in some negativity, even though they have a certain thing to add to your life. They may be bringing in their
more
own negative aspects of their life that you just can't take on, right?
Yeah.
Has it ever happened to you?
Not so much from a mentoring perspective. But being a Leo with a big heart, I also like to mentor. I also like to just help people wherever possible. And sometimes, you know, people get excited about the business, so they want to come in and they want to help. And it's like, okay, cool. I don't have money to pay you yet. So it's definitely like a give and take. And so what I will offer sometimes is mentoring, but there's a line. So if what I'm helping you with is too heavy and not really what I'm trained in, and you should be seeing a therapist, I can't keep you on board for the help that you're giving me, even though it's valuable. I gotta be like, listen, like I want you around on the team, but you have to deal with some of your stuff first. Right. Can we move you to this capacity that's a little more at arm's length until you get through your stuff? That's kind of been the more common thing. But I think what you're saying just speaks to life as a whole, like outside of mentorship, like you're gonna come across people who bring some kind of value to you, but sometimes their negativity outweighs the positive.
Right. Yeah. True. Going back to the business that you, the first one that you started for your last year of university. Yeah. How did that experience help you with Toni Marlow?
I mean, it was great because it's like practice, right? So I had to practice starting a team, managing a team, building a website, pitching. And you still did all the same things. And it was really great because you do it in school. So every week you have your professors guiding you along the way and saying, all right, I mean, they whooped our butts more than anything, but that was the preparation. And they would tell us that all the time. Like when you go out in the real world, no one's holding your hand. So like, let's help you now. So I would say that was a huge thing in just being able to make those mistakes under their guidance and their direction and support. Yeah.
And we find that a lot, especially like if I think back to my time in theater school, having the professors, having the mentors was such a crutch for us. But a lot of people, and even the women and men that I graduated with, they'll say, once we don't have that crutch, once we don't have someone holding us accountable, we just fall,
Exactly.
you know, then what? And then you're just, you know, at a 9 to 5 and you're doing these to kind of stay alive, but you're not living, you know? So that's great that you were able to learn that for your last year and that you brought that into Toni Marlow. That's wonderful. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, but we will be right back.
From a tender age, I recognized that I was not the average girl. I was always opinionated, outspoken, and for the most part, unapologetic. I was born to lead, to inflict positive change, to serve. I was born a leader. Harnessing this internal drive led me to spearheading several businesses while unlocking potential within large organizations in director roles throughout the city. While on this quest, I discovered my love for people and passion for personal development. Throughout my career, I have mentored hundreds of individuals, both personally and professionally. Channeling my belief of self-care and with an avid love for fitness, daily I nurture my mind, body, and soul, embracing the very act of self-love. I truly do believe that you cannot give what you don't have. With a commitment to living on purpose and within my purpose, my personal mantra is to leave better than I met.
Hello, and we are back on the Make Your Mark show with Jalisa. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. I do want to talk to you about your experience in the nonprofit world. It's very large, but also very small. It's very helpful, but also very not helpful.
Yes,
so,
it's complex.
Let us know how you kind of got started in that, because I know, like, obviously you didn't go to school for any social service or anything like that. So how did you get started in that world?
Yeah, so I started working with nonprofits through a job I was doing at a university. So they hired the university to do their research on a program that was funded by the government for the Poverty Reduction Fund, something like that. And basically it was looking at shipping containers, shipping container markets for local entrepreneurs and newcomers and things like that. So that you're basically providing retail space at a more affordable rate to let people try out their products and see how it, you know, works and hopefully becomes a livelihood for them. And so I was doing the research on how effective that was. But it was run by a community center, which is a nonprofit as well, right? And that was interesting because, you know, you saw the struggle in them trying to manage the funds and get the grants, and, you know, you have to, there's all the politics behind it. You know, sometimes they have to pick, they got to cut a program, but the decision isn't always going to be made on which program has the least impact or which program is going to, you know, cutting it is going to hurt the least amount of people. A lot of times it's like, okay, we can get more funding for this other program, which means we can maintain more jobs, which is also important, right? But it's like, you could just see the struggle, and you could see within the staff, they're like, what do we do? You know, we want to do it all. And, you know, just, there's also opposing viewpoints, and I don't know that there's any one right way to do it. So I don't have an opinion on that, but I just saw it was very messy and challenging, right? Because if you choose to be there for more than at least a year, like, you're choosing to be there more likely than not, especially in something that's not a secure job, right? So you're there because you want to help. And so I saw that side in terms of like, wow, that's interesting. You know, and like people would attack sometimes the managers or whatever and be like, you're not helping. But then I would also see the other side behind the scenes where they do make other sacrifices to help programs. So there's that. And then I got involved with another program called Business in the Streets. BITS is for short, and basically they do peer-to-peer mentorship. So that's how I got started. Someone asked me to be a mentor there, and it's hands-on entrepreneurship training for youth 18 to 34 that are underrepresented in the GTA. And it just, I love it. Yeah, I love it. I love mentoring. Yeah. I love business. I love ideation and business strategy and seeing people like take action, like learn something and then apply it. And you come every week and you're like, oh, you actually did the work, and like this is what you learned. And so that's how I got involved. And then eventually, I was just working out of the space on my own business, and I was talking to the manager, and he was like, he's looking for someone, and he explained what he needed, and I was like, hi, like, dude, I'm physically in front of you. He's like, what about your business? I'm like, it doesn't pay all the bills yet. Like, what you mean? I still need a job.
Yeah.
And so that's how that started. And, even picking that, I was going to do something, basically the same thing, but also with the university, but their program was targeted to a different demographic.
Right.
And so I even had that hard call of like, well, that's more secure. It pays a hell of a lot more, and I might even get benefits. But if I go with this one, it's a market that I'm more, I feel a stronger pull to, underrepresented,
right,
melanin, newcomers and people of color, right? And people who are dealing with poverty. Not that the other one wasn't, but it wasn't as specifically that. Anyways, long story short, that was one big reason I chose the lesser paying job, as well as the space and the vibe and just like what they do. And I just love it. I love it. Even though I'm not there anymore, I'm still involved and I still support. And
no, yeah,
that's that.
As Leos, we lead with our heart.
Honestly,
our heart is so large, and even it's wonderful that you took that job rather than the more high paying job, because it's really hard to separate your heart from your brain. You need money to survive in the world that we live in, but you also want to change. And the only way you can do change is through something that you love. Yeah. Really, really exploring what you love and giving that to the world, right? Yeah. So I guess how do you balance the two?
Yeah.
Because you still got to get paid, but you still want to put your mark on the world.
For sure. And that was one of the big deciding factors in taking that job, was I had more flexibility. So yes, it paid less, but I had the flexibility of my schedule to be like, hey, I'm going to be on the Make Your Mark show. I can't come in this afternoon. I'm going to finish my work from home later today, and that would be okay. So that was one way I balanced it. And that's how I still kind of continue to balance it in terms of what I do is as much as I try to use my brain mostly, a lot of times my heart does take over. And it's just a matter of having, I guess, a baseline. Like if your bases are actually covered brain-wise, logically, then you kind of have a little more space to make more heart-centered decisions.
That makes sense. I remember when we were talking yesterday, you had said like you negotiate. Like you have no issue negotiating the contracts that they give. And I think that's very important because, what they give is what they're willing to give you. But what they're willing to give you is not necessarily what you need at that moment in time. Yeah. But even in negotiating, you need to know what you want. Yeah. You need to know what you need. Yeah. And a lot of people, or, even a contract that I was negotiating beforehand, I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what I wanted. So I just took whatever they gave me. Right. And then I realized when I was in it, oh, can I change this? Can I change this? Can I change that? But you can't because you signed on that dotted line, right? So how important do you think knowing what you want is?
I mean, you touched on a few things. Definitely, yes, you have to know what you want to get what you want. Right. But often, sometimes you just got to try, right? Like you just got to get into a situation and then you'll know. But I'm, the way my mom, my grandma on that side, raised me was just always, it was try again, try again, and then try again and try some more. And I'm not exaggerating. The amount of tries in her saying is about 8 or 9. And then after that, then you can, okay, maybe you do something else, know? So, and find a solution was the mantra in the house. So yeah, I signed a contract, but I've never been afraid. I've been raised to not be afraid, to be like, hey, I understand we signed a contract. But now that I'm here, this is my experience. And for me to give you what you hired me for, what you want, I'm realizing I need this, this, and this instead, which is outside of the contract. Can we renegotiate those terms? And so for myself, I've never been a person to be afraid to just do that. And that is, I guess, another way to answer your question. Like, as things arise and it changes, I just bring it to the table and I'm like, well, this is what's up. Like, and sometimes you're gonna get a no, you know what I mean? Like, there's no harm in I find there's no harm in asking. Like, I can say that. You could be upset and be like, what's wrong with you? And be like, I was just asking. If it's a no, all right, cool. I'm gonna do my best within these parameters. But then I know for myself, I gotta start thinking about something else. Right. Or finding other ways to make it work.
Do you think that that whole negotiation thing is something that can only be done in nonprofits? That's the only place that I've been able to explore. But do you think there's room for that in?
I apply that to life, like everything in my life, like down to my ice cream. Like, anyone who knows me knows I'm obsessed with ice cream. I become a 4-year-old when you say ice cream. And like, you know, the local ice cream shop at my house, they know me. And I'll be like, so I know normally this is the deal. But like, you also know that's my favorite flavor. Can we XYZ? You're going to get the same amount of dollars. It's the same ice cream. Like, why can't we bend some rules? We don't got to break them. Yeah.
Like that a lot. I want to touch on your relationship with failure. What is that?
I mean, it happens. We're humans, so like I expect it. Using all the cliches, fail fast, fail forward. You know, you have to fail to learn. And if you've never failed, you never tried anything. You've never done anything to be real. You've kind of just woken up and fed yourself. Maybe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so if you're not trying, you're not failing. And if you're not failing, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not growing. So that's how I think about it.
You said it all. We're going to stop the conversation right there and we will take a short break and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the Make Your Mark Talk Show. We are here with Jalisa from Toni Marlow. A very important aspect of this show is the building of resilience. Yes. And we know that building resilience comes from going through an all-time low.
Yep.
So tell me about one time where you just said, I am going to wave the white flag. I just want to give up. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, so this question has been coming up a lot lately. You know, how have you been resilient in your business? And do you ever feel like giving up? And hell yeah. This stuff's not easy. It's not easy at all. But usually it's more like I say it or like you're frustrated in the moment, but you know you just need to cool down and you're fine. But having that real moment of like, no, actually looking at what it would mean to give up. I have had that a little more recently. So like last year, just because I guess the 18 months prior to that, or you know, within the last 2 years or so, it's just been hell. It's just been hell. So it was just like one thing after another, and just got to a point where I was actually suicidal and was like, why am I doing this? What's the point, you know? But there was a lot that led to it. It wasn't like just one thing. And it's also, again, that resiliency. Like, it's okay, it's being that clown doll that, you know, you punch it down and it pops up, right? But it's like at some point it might hit a pebble on the floor and the air is gonna pop out, you know, it's gonna come out, it's not gonna pop up, right? So it was kind of getting to that point. And so I guess all the punches were just like, you know, I had lost like one of my key business partners just ghosted me like a Tinder date, like just disappeared. And I was like, dude, like, we could have a conversation about that, the fact that you are leaving and what day you're leaving, right? You know, and that was really hard because they were an integral part of the team. And I had a lot of friendships that were starting to kind of dissipate at that time too. And I don't normally take things personally, but when it's like you're at like 6 or 7 people, I'm like, you're a fool if you can't look at yourself and be like, am I doing something? Right. You know, and so I started to be like, well, what's wrong with me? What am I, you know what I mean? And so that like goes on to your mental health, your self-esteem. And then, you know, my mom got sick, she almost died, and thank God she didn't. But at the same time, you know, that same week, my fiance at the time, we broke up, to make it short. It was a very traumatic breakup, and she just also disappeared. And so it was like all these like abandonment issues that I had no idea I even had. Were just coming up. I'm like, why does everyone keep leaving me? Like, I don't understand it, like just so suddenly. And so here I am now. I'm down in my team. Like I had a team, built it up, and now I don't really have a team. I have less money. I wasn't working full time anymore. I was doing a program that did pay you, but like not a real livable wage. My mom just got out of the hospital. Things are kind of unclear what that really means. I now suddenly am traumatically single. I had a puppy that was always sick. And I was displaced because I left my partner. So I was like, where am I living? How am I doing this? And people want the product, but then you would get complaints that it's too expensive. And it's like, yes and no.
Like, you only knew what I was
you know what I
going
mean? Because
through.
if you look at the underwear market as a whole, it's actually not expensive. It's very much a value brand. But if you look at who I started this product for, it is a little expensive.
Right.
They're not gonna necessarily generally be able to fill their whole underwear drawer with our product off the bat, right? And so it's that frustration of you need it, you love it, you see the product, you love it, but then you don't buy it. And I have no one to support me to go through and do it. I don't have money to make the things you want or buy them in bulk so it's cheaper for you. I'm now heartbroken. I don't know what's going on with my mom. I ended up rehoming my dog, so I didn't have like my little buddy to like make me happy. And I started working now, like going through the whole, I'm giving it a whole 2 years. So like time goes on. I end up getting a job that we spoke about before. I love the job, but I love it so much. It's like, and I'm good at it. I'm like, okay, I only have so much time and I only have so much energy. Should I maybe, put the business to sleep and focus here and build my career here? But then there's a lot of things that come up in that job and in that industry that also make it really hard on you as a, queer Black woman, non-binary person. Like, it's just not easy. You know what I mean? And still run the business. So that's the highlights. But
highlights.
That's the highlights without giving you each detail of each story. But having that all together, like I was suicidal and I was just like, I don't see the point. Like I've been doing this business for like 3 years now. Why aren't we?
Right.
Why aren't I at chapter 60? You know what I mean? At so-and-so's chapter 60, and I'm thinking is there chapter 4 when I'm at chapter 4, Right.
So just thinking about that and, that state of mind, it's something that really affects us all. But when we're in that state of mind, that depressive state of mind, we feel like we're alone. We feel like we're in it alone. No one's around us. No one's there. But we know that there are other people going through that. Did you have that experience?
So for me, mental health has always been a huge part of my life. Almost everyone in my family has some kind of mental health something. And I have my own stuff too, right? And so I'm a big advocate. So I'm glad that I'm at a place where I can know cognitively, like it is anxiety or it is depression or it's the life of ADHD, like it's the way your brain is. It helps, but it doesn't change how you feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? But because I have that awareness, I was still able to know, okay, my mom is alive. I do have friends. I do have family. Like I'm not alone, even though I feel alone. And I think that helped to get me through a bit. Right. But I got therapy. I was like immediately like counseling, therapy, any drop-in I could do. YouTube was like one of my psychologists. Like anything I could get my hands on to keep going. As well as I'm always preaching magnesium for anxiety and 5-HTP for depression. If you're not into prescription drugs, look it up. Probably getting a little off topic, but...
Yeah, so I want to get into the therapy.
Yeah.
It's something, especially in our community, that's just frowned upon. Yeah. No, you don't do that. Just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
No,
or don't
just
share your
get
business.
through it. Yeah. Like, what is that? Did you deal with that?
No, I didn't deal with that because I was lucky that, my mom's not Black. She's not white, but she's not Black. And so we didn't have that mindset in that side of my house. On my dad's family, definitely that's there. But because of that, I've taken therapy multiple different times in my life for multiple different things. So it's never been an issue. It's more like, can I afford it now? Or like, where are the places where the wait list is short enough to get me help when I need it?
Right.
So, yeah.
And because, like now, obviously, because you don't have benefits, it's really hard to find that. So how do you find that system in itself, just even trying to find help and support?
Yeah, I really feel it for people who do already deal with the stigma and then the stress and then the same financial barriers. But again, like I've said, find a solution, try again, negotiate. Like, I don't give up. I'm like, okay, I see this free service. I was on it before. I've been on a wait list, and for whatever reason, I'm not there yet. I'm like, I need this now. And, persistence and grace. I was bumped. I wasn't supposed to be bumped in one of the programs, but they bumped me. They called it like, okay, a space did open up. You know, are you sure you're ready? You know, we'll bump you. And I was like, thank you. Yes. I'll see you whatever day you say. You know what I mean? And also just like research, right? Like keep asking. And I think a big problem is that in our community, we're feeling this, but we have that shame and the stigma. So you don't even ask. You only rely on the internet. Right. And the internet is great, but it doesn't always get you where you need to go. Right. So I spoke about it to a lot of people, like, I'm looking for counseling, I'm looking for therapy, this is my budget, help. And then you get more resources or you get connected. And so that was another thing as well. So I got connected to one that was like sliding scale, like to $50 per session. Yeah. Right.
Not bad. And that's just there in the community, right? We just have to go and search.
You have to go and search. And there is a wait list and whatnot, but like it was way more accessible than a lot of other programs. Yeah. Okay.
So going back to the resilience, and even though you were going through all of that and, you know, having to experience all of that within the span of 2 years, like 2 years, it sounds like a lot, but it is not a lot of time. Like that is, it goes by like this, right? So experiencing all of that and then having to come back and say, no, I'm not going to shut down the business. I am not going to just, you know, find another job and do whatever I have to do. What drove you to choose that rather than giving up?
Yeah. So, and the whole thing was over 2 years, but I would say like the depths of it was maybe over about nine months. But it's like I go to events and people say, this is going to change my life. Or like they're almost in tears that like there's a product for them. And I'm like, I can't, I
can't stop.
I literally can't stop. It's like a beautiful burden. I'm like, I can't live with at this point, I can't live with myself if I stop. You know what I mean? That's like people actually need it. People actually are relying on me. And I never imagined that. I was like, I just want to make underwear that's comfortable for me and everyone like me. Didn't think I would win awards for it or people would say this is changing my life, you know? But when you hear that, you see them in your face. It's not just a message, which we get those as well.
Right.
How do you wake up and look yourself in the mirror every day and be like, yeah, I'm shutting it down? Like, it's not at that scale yet where everyone can get it. So I can say I've done my job. So I just got to keep going.
Awesome. And I think that's super important. And it's something that we forget. Our experiences are, even though it's very different from everyone's experiences, once we get to the root of the problem, everyone is dealing with that same problem, right? So even though you have this undergarments company for non-binary or non-conforming,
it's for people who are born, who are assigned female at birth, but anyone who doesn't just want to, you know, subscribe to what society says women have to wear.
Right. It just seems like such a simple concept, right? Yeah. But it makes so much more sense, and it's so large, and it can be seen and understood and resonated with on such a large scale. Yeah. But that was just you looking into you and really saying, I would really like this. I would like this to happen.
Yeah. Like,
and doing it, right?
Exactly. Like I just wanted to have underwear that didn't roll up, wasn't pink, wasn't lacy, covered my whole butt, and that I could put a pad into my boxer briefs. Like that was it.
Simple.
Yeah.
And the birth of Toni Marlow.
There you go.
We're going to stop right here and we're going to take another short break, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
It took a lot to get to this place, to feel comfortable to wear my own hair. It took a lot of reflection and coaching and support from the team here, and of course my family. I know my husband really was looking forward to this experience of me exposing my hair, but I was afraid. I won't lie, I was afraid. I didn't know how it would come out. I had been so used to wearing units that I couldn't imagine myself exposed with such a short cut, my jawline and everything just kind of out there. But all in all, I have to say it was definitely a freeing experience, and I'm so grateful for it. And I definitely would recommend it to anyone who has that self-doubt or that unsurety about exposing natural hair. I definitely would take that chance.
Hello, and we are back on the Make Your Mark Talk Show with Jalisa. So now I want to get into Toni Marlow.
Yeah.
So we talked about it before. It was, you know, this project where you just said, I want to see myself in this. And so you created it. But what I think is like pretty amazing, because I'm kind of in the process myself, is putting my business and kind of melding it with social justice. social issues that need to be addressed, but also making money.
Yeah.
Like, we need to live, and that's how we live in this world. There's actually a term for it, which I didn't even know about. Explain that to us. What is this social enterprise?
Yeah, so a social enterprise is basically a business that is for profit, but its whole purpose is solving a social issue. So I think the example I had brought up before was like those straws, those reusable metal straws. It's not a charity business. They keep all the profits, or they might decide to give donations away, but their purpose exists to make money, but their product in and of itself exists to remove the problem of plastic waste. And, you know, the poor little sea turtles getting the straws up their nose. I saw that stuff. I love animals. It hurts me. You know what I mean? Like, so that's their purpose, is to solve that social problem. But when they use their business, they're retaining the profits. Whereas in a not-for-profit, you can't retain, you know, only a certain amount of money. You have to spend it out. Or
At the end of that year, it needs to be zero.
Yeah. That's not what a social enterprise. You can keep all the money you want, but the purpose of your business is directly for solving a social problem. Not like a for-profit business that's like, oh, we donate every Veterans Day, we donate to the military recovery fund or something. You know what I mean? That's nice on that one day you donate. You're just writing off your taxes. Maybe you actually care. Maybe you don't, and it's for, you know, your PR. That's not a social enterprise. Whatever their business is their own for-profit thing. So in terms of Toni Marlow, basically, I didn't actually see us necessarily as a social enterprise at first. I was like, I need undies. I know all the other queers like me need undies. I know a lot of straight girls steal their boyfriend's boxers. And a lot of femme people I didn't realize were wearing boxer briefs under their clothes every day. And I was blown. I was like, I had no idea. Cool. We all need the underwear. And I want money. And, you know, I like to do business. I went to school for business. I've always been interested. So that was it. But I do have that big heart. And so I was like, how else can I give back, though? And so it was going to originally be like Tom's. So you buy one pair of shoes gets donated. So I was going to do that to like homeless shelters and queer homeless shelters, because people don't give underwear. They don't think about it. They don't think about personal hygiene products and things like that. But we weren't at that point where we had that type of scale to afford to do that. So I changed it around, and I was going to just donate on every purchase, which we do. And, you know, as time went on, I lost a friend to suicide. Although he's not queer, I know the numbers in the queer community are like much higher. Like I think like 46, don't quote me exactly, but roughly, you know, percent higher than non-queer youth or people as a whole have suicidal thoughts and feelings, or actually take the action all the way. And that's madness. You know what I mean? And I do think it's preventable. And, you know, I miss my friend, and I know people who deal with these issues all the time. And so if I can help with that, I'm definitely going to help with that. So Toni Marlow donates $1 of every product sold to suicide prevention. And as well as when you come visit us at a booth, we have a donation box. So people put their change in there. Sometimes they throw 10s, 20s. I'm like, bless your heart. So that's how we do it. And that's why I do it that way.
Yeah. That's just wonderful. For me, that changes the framework of what a business is. You know what I mean? It's not just about offering people a service and, you know, taking the money for yourself. It's about offering the service or offering this product, but really taking into account how it can affect the world around you, and how it can positively affect the world around you, the people around you, and the people who use it. So I think that is like just wonderful, and it's a different framework, something that we see. Like, I'm sure we see it all over the world, but we don't actually take into account what that is. And just knowing that there is actually a term for it, and people are doing this consciously, for me is great. And to know that there are people in the world who actually do stuff like that, and are successful doing stuff like that, it gives me reason to continue.
That's good. I'm glad.
You know. Another thing too that I noticed about Toni Marlow is the representation that you guys have with the models, and making sure that you have products for, you know, all types of queer youth and queer just people in general.
Yeah, and just to clarify, you don't have to be queer. Like, if whoever you sleep with has nothing to do with your underwear. Right? It's just a lot of the people initially, a lot of the women who wear men's boxer briefs generally are queer, but it's not all. Like, just how many straight women steal their boyfriend's underwear? You know what I mean? So That's all. But yeah.
So just the representation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you make sure that everyone is seen. Why is that part so important to you?
Because, and I always answer this question the same way, but like if you're not seen, you can't feel heard or like you matter. And if you don't see something, it's harder to think you can do something, right? So we all know representation matters, and it's across the board, you know, from the underwear to in TV or film or politics, in a book, you know what I mean, on the radio, everywhere. You need to have diverse representation because this earth is full of diverse people.
Right.
And we all matter, and we're all doing things, and we all need to be heard. And yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you. And it wasn't happening in the industry. Like when we had launched, there were less than a handful of direct competitors. And their versions of diversity were pretty limited, in my opinion. But they've all kind of caught up now, and like the industry as a whole has definitely caught up. Like everywhere you go, you see so much diversity. And I mean, you might see a flavor of the month. Right now, people are all about trans things, and it's like, it's really good and really bad. I'm like, it's great that there's more awareness and acceptance, but also how many of you are just bandwagoners who are being canceled by all the activist communities, you know? And so you're like, oh, let me put a trans product out there. Or you just realize there's dollars there, so you make the product, whereas our stuff is made actually by the people for the people. So, you know.
And that's something that we see a lot on, you know, social media. People just jumping on a bandwagon.
Yeah.
All you have to do really is, you know, put a post in your story that says something about a social justice issue that's, you know, going
Hot
viral.
at the time. Yeah.
And you're an activist.
Yeah.
Do you see that often?
All the time.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. It's upsetting. I don't know. Like that whole thing, we can have a whole other episode on it. But like in terms of how that applies here, it's like our Packer boxers are for trans guys or non-binary folks who wear a Packer, which is a prosthesis. So they don't have to wear a harness or a jock strap underneath their boxers.
Right.
I was making this product for what I had thought were going to be like tomboy lesbians, like studs or whatever. And in research, I was like, oh yeah, there's all these femmes who wear boxers. There's all these straight girls who wear boxers. Okay, that's one segment that I need to pay more attention to. And then I was like looking at some of the trans guys I know, and I was like, okay, some parts of your body don't change. Like I researched, and then I was like, the internet says your hips won't, like the shape of your hips won't change, but your fat distribution will change, right? So if you were born with really broad hips in terms of your bone structure, that's not going to change.
Right.
And therefore your underwear, you're still going to have the same problems. It's going to ride up in one place. It's going to be this and that and the other, right? So I spoke to some trans people I knew, and I spoke to a trans man who's now our business partner, and literally over an hour, this man was on and on and on about underwear and like excited but frustrated, and like he can't find things he needs. I was like, okay, we definitely need to make this a focus as well. And so he designed our Packer boxers.
Wow.
4 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Way before any of these people were doing anything, you know what I mean? And like, I think that's really integral. If you're gonna jump on a bandwagon, at least bring in the people you're claiming to be helping.
Right.
You might not be of that experience, but if you're gonna try to help women, don't be a man calling all the shots. Be like, oh yeah, this is for women too. Bring some women consultants on and be like, what is your actual experience and how can we help fix it? And then take their suggestions and do something. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my only problem with it.
You have to bring in the people with the lived experience.
Yeah.
People have lived this stuff and they know about it more than anybody else, than any research can ever tell you. Me talking to you right now, you're teaching me about your life and you're teaching me the details, everything about it. If I read up on you, I wouldn't have no idea. I wouldn't know 50% of what I know today.
Right.
So you do have to bring in the people with lived experience. And what we do see now is that people are trying to change the world, but you don't know what's actually going on in the world.
Exactly.
You're not talking to people. You're not bringing them in. And that kind of goes into partnerships. You know what I mean? Us wanting to do everything on our own, thinking that we can, but forgetting to bring in those other people, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything alone, right? So you definitely need to build a community, whether it's a team or just a community or a bunch of consultants that you pay, but like you can't do anything alone, you know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, with any nonprofit organization or anything that pertains to social justice, they can't do it alone. So I want to know, we want to know how we can help Toni Marlow.
I mean, this is beautiful in itself, you know, just helping to get the word out more. Buy products when you can, but only if you genuinely want it. We got t-shirts and everything. When you see us at booths, if you out, come say hi, because vending is tiring and, you know, can get lonely. If you have some change, drop it into the donation box. And we are at a point where we have so much demand that we can't fill because we're not at a place where we have enough capital to do a huge inventory purchase. So if you know people who have money to invest, or if you know people in the government sectors who know which programs could support something like this, just kind of getting some money to do a bulk purchase, that would be great.
Awesome.
Other than that, it's ToniMarlow.com, Toni with an I, ToniMarlow.com.
Awesome. Jalisa, thank you so much for being here with us today. We've learned so much, and just from your story and what you chose to do with your story, it's inspiring.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you guys next week.